And right now on the earth, we have more accusation than ever before. There's so much out there that's false against people, and no one knows how to stand against it. And so most people, when they should speak, they're silent. And oftentimes when people are silent, they should speak.
Hey there, folks. Right now, as my guest, a very dear friend, an extraordinary human being. His name is Malachi O'Brien. Yeah, that's his real name, Malachi O'Brien. Malachi, before I bring Malachi on, let me just tell you, Malachi is the unofficial, it will be official, because they're looking into it to prove it, but he's the unofficial Guinness Book World Record holder for consecutive daily marathons, 26.2 miles per day, day after day after day. Malachi did 153 consecutive days of running a marathon, not making it up. I accompanied him on part of one of his last marathons to set that record, and the Guinness Book is establishing that. So you know, straight out of the gate, he's a lunatic. Most of my friends are lunatics. That's my highest compliment. Maniacs, lunatics. He's the former vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention, former president of One Cry, founder of NFT Kansas City. He is a dear friend, and he's on today because he has written a book called Time to Rise, Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. I know what that means because I wrote the foreword to the book. That's how well I think of Malachi and of what he's written in the book. Malachi, congratulations on the book and welcome back.
Thank you, Eric, for having me back on the show. I can't believe I'm really on the Eric Metaxas show again. This is great.
Well, look, you there's a lot to talk about. I just want people to know, first of all, what is the essence of the book? I mean, the reason I was excited about writing the foreword to it is because I understand what you're saying in this book is so important right now. But I think the title doesn't tell people what it's about. Time to Rise, Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. Overcoming accusation. What are we talking about?
Well, obviously, Revelation 12 tells us that the accuser of the brethren, all right, Satan, that's what he does. He attacks people through insinuation, accusation, deceit. And right now on the earth, we have more accusation than ever before. And actually, Eric, it's interesting. If you study Revelation 12, it's there because the attacks on Israel are increasing, is why we see more accusation on the earth. And so the idea is there's so much out there that's false against people, and no one knows how to stand against it. And so most people, when they should speak, they're silent. And oftentimes when people are silent, they should speak. And so this is just saying, hey, it's kind of like trying to slice the throat and break the kneecaps of the enemy for attacking Christians, organizations, Christians, but maybe more importantly, individuals on the inside from that spirit of accusation that stops us from all that God has for us. And, you know, one of the things I highlight in the book, Eric, is simply that I believe Donald Trump overcame accusation. I mean, if you look at his campaign, I mean, accusation after accusation after accusation, but he stuck to the truth and he won. You know, you look at what Erica Kirk did a month and a half ago when she forgave her husband's killer. I believe forgiveness is the antidote to accusation. But the church has been silent when it should speak up when accusation comes against it because people are afraid now to be attacked by people that make money by attacking other people.
I mean, listen, I unfortunately have witnessed this. I have been attacked, and it's so fascinating because when you look at, you know, we say that Satan is the accuser of the brethren. So Satan, the adversary, is an accuser, and how does that typically function? Every lie has to have a little truth in it to sell the lie. And so people will find something that's sort of true or there's some vague truth in it, and then they'll add to it and make up other stuff and they throw it at you. And how do you untangle from that? I mean, it has happened to me. I'm not going to go into specifics, but people who have followed me over the last decade or so, it's a horrifying thing because this stuff gets out there that you said X and you think, well, wait a minute. I didn't really say X. I said something that people are now stretching into X, but I never would have said X. You know me, I wouldn't say that. And they go, well, I read it. And then they read it and then somebody else reads it. And then they put it in another article, quoting the first article. And the lie goes around and around and around. And then before you know it, friends are saying, how could you say that? And you say, I didn't say that. I would think that you know I didn't say that. But even friends, they're fooled by this, and it goes around and around. And we have seen a lot of this in the last few years, folks. And a lot of people who claim to be Christians, I don't think they are Christians, but they traffic in this. They make money on it. They have websites that are they delight. They delight in taking down whole ministries and stuff. And there's always, again, there are many people that get deceived by this. They get deceived, or because one thing is true, they believe 2, 3, 4, and 5 things that are not true. So it's really wicked. I just want to say it's spiritually really, really wicked. And Malachi, you do a masterful job in the book of talking about it. The book is Time to Rise, Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. In the book, you do talk about, you're an ultra marathoner. You talk about the lessons that you've learned that are tied into this, which is kind of an interesting thing. Most people wouldn't put those two together.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned from the running, and by the way, most people need to know, Eric, that you're a runner. So I hope eventually one of these days you'll let that secret out on the show and actually talk about it a little bit. But recently, about 6 months ago, I ran a race called the Arizona Monster 300. It was a 300 plus mile trail race in Arizona. I slept 7 hours in the total of 7 days. Okay. Hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the greatest thing I've ever done. And I thought I was going to quit like day 1, day 2, day 3. But one of the things that got me through the second night, because I was for sure I was going to quit, was some people said, "Hey, why don't you run with us?" I was ready to quit. I just left an aid station in the desert of Arizona. I could have swore I saw UFOs. I'm not making that up. But some other runners, I'm not making that up to be funny. But I was also hallucinating. I was tired. Had some other runners say, "Hey, just run with us." And, I learned something, Eric, that when you're in your darkest moments of life and you have a few friends that say, "Hey, just come with us. We're going to get you through. You can make it through any season." And I know anyone who faces accusation needs some friends who will say, "Hey, we're with you, ride or die, to the end. You're going to make it through." And, maybe just to touch on that previous point you made a second ago, accusations don't have to be false to be wrong. It's not that when Satan's talking to God about people that he's wrong in what he says. He's wrong in what he wants to be the result of it. Because we have a lot of people preaching a punishment gospel, not a true redemptive gospel that restores people. So there's so much about running that I have learned. I really do wish one of these days you'll do a whole show on all the lessons you've learned running in Central Park or around the world, literally, from things you've learned. So this book is primarily formed from a lot of those lessons learned hours upon hours upon hours in the dark, in the cold, in the night, running. Like actually, even this morning, Eric, I got up at midnight and ran 5 miles because I thought that'd be a great idea. Because I knew Eric was going to call me a lunatic on the show today, and thought I better prove him right.
You thought if Eric's going to call me a lunatic, I need to behave like a lunatic. That's the right thing to do.
Thus the red jacket.
You wake up at midnight and you run 5 miles. That's mild lunacy compared to the stuff you've done. I mean, when you just said, Malachi, that you have done a 300-mile Arizona trail race, ladies and gentlemen, do you understand how insane this is? Do you understand? I mean, run a mile and you think, wow, that's a mile. Run 5 miles, run 10 miles. That's nothing. 300 miles over 7 days. I mean, when you told me about that, Malachi, I can be honest on the air. I counseled you against it. I said, please don't do this. You have a family. This is going to harm your organs. You could to not get sleep for a week or whatever it is that you did. It's crazy stuff. And so when people get involved in extreme athletic stuff, like I'm out. I don't, I run. I think that's cool. But what you do is so amazing. And I do want to go back to, you're setting this world record now what's the story with the Guinness book? Like they need time, I guess. It sounds like they need a lot of time to corroborate
a lot of time to review individual videos, because I had to submit a video, because you're in part of the videos on 2 of them, because you ran with me 2 different days, like day 27 and day 151. They have to review the videos, and all of that was kind of on the heels of COVID coming out of that. So it's just taking a lot of time. And so I've reached back out to whatever else they need. I had to video every single run run and take a picture every mile of the run. So you have to document the journey so intensely for Guinness. So I hope that will be out soon
Yeah.
and we can announce it on the show. That will be
Well,
fantastic.
you've
But
got to
Eric,
write a book about that. I mean, 153 consecutive marathons. It's just, if people want to get some insight into who you are, the fact that you could do that and did do that is just absolutely amazing. And I was privileged to do that with you. We ran to New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, we ran from New York to New Jersey, which involves going up Manhattan to the George Washington Bridge, across the Hudson River into Fort Lee, New Jersey. The whole thing is just so crazy, and obviously back and whatever. And that's just a fraction of what you accomplished. But you really are somebody that is, dedicated to doing amazing things. And what you write about in the book is directly related to that. This idea that we have to stand strongly against accusation. We have to understand what this is. We have to understand the nature of the enemy. The nature of the enemy, folks. Satan wants to discourage you. God never wants to discourage you. He may want to correct you or whatever, but never wants to discourage you. Accusation, when people, again, a lot of woke Christians, a lot of lefty Christians have piled on to the spirit of accusation. They just want to take down ministries. It's kind of like this Marxist, it really is cultural Marxist. It's like the Chinese Cultural Revolution. It's ugly. It's satanic stuff. And you talk about it. Again, the book is Time to Rise, Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. Let's just talk a little bit about the book before we go.
Yeah, let me be clear on something. There are things that happen in ministries. Like, we're not excusing sin. We're not saying holiness doesn't matter. Obviously, you were touched by David Wilkerson, who was one of the strongest holiness, fiery preachers alive in that era. The reality is that accusation does not bring reformation in the church. Mercy, grace, repentance, forgiveness does. But there is what I call in the book, I call it the failure porn cartel. There are people addicted to failure porn. They can't wait to get the next little detail about the fault and failing of somebody else, because as long as they can see that, they don't have to focus on the sin in their own life. And this is the hour that we have to really rise up. It's the bride versus Babylon. We have to become God chasers and just realize that even accusations, they will never purify the church, but what they'll do is they'll lead to deconstruction. There are a lot of millennials deconstructing from their faith because they had a negative experience. There's people that have a love affair with trauma these days. And I'm not saying trauma doesn't exist. I'm just saying there's people that have a love affair with it and haven't learned to deal with it biblically because of the cultural ideologies that have infected the church. And I'll just add this. We have, like, right now, weapons of mass emotion have been dropped everywhere. And if you can get people to feel, you can tell them what to think. That's why the stories are so salacious and so crazy. Because if I can get you to feel, then whatever I say next, you'll think and you'll believe. Because logic does not change somebody's emotional position. And so we have to come at this a new way. And honestly, if Satan can get the church offended and mad at each other and attacking each other, we're not going to see the church be what it needs to be in this hour, in America and in the world.
And to follow up on what you just said, we all want justice. At least we say we want justice. So if there has been sin or injustice or whatever it is, we all ought to want justice. But then the question is, how do you go about that? And what does that end up looking like? Where do you apply mercy and grace? How do you have the wisdom to understand that, right? Because there's some people, they're all about mercy and grace and they kind of forget about justice. Justice is important. If somebody did something wicked, we should know the facts and we should have a logical way of dealing with that. We don't just want to sweep it under the rug. At the same time, you want to figure out, what does God want out of this? What does God want? So it's not about letting people get away with stuff, but it's like, what is God's process in this? And how can you smell when this is not God, but that this is satanic desire to corrode the church, to destroy the church, to destroy ministries, which is going to harm more people. So it really takes wisdom. And that's why I'm so proud of you in writing this book, Malachi, because you've been very involved in a lot of this stuff. You've been aware of what's going on. You know some of the players And so you get to see both sides, and you get to see what does God want, and what has the enemy been able to do in the name of justice when it's really in the name of just wanting to destroy people and destroy lives and destroy the work that God is doing. The title of the book is Time to Rise: Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. The book is just loaded with interesting stuff. We're not going to have time to get into it right now. But Malachi, congratulations again, folks. I wrote the foreword to the book, which I think tells you what I think of it. I don't have time to write a lot of forewords, I can tell you that. But this book by Malachi O'Brien, Brien, is called Time to Rise: Quick Wins for Overcoming Accusation and Walking in Victory. Malachi, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Eric. Honored to be on the show. And I do hope everybody gets the book, because this is the hour that we get discernment and we're not deceived.